Good evening, everyone, and thank you for that beautiful musical opening, boys and girls. That was lovely. My name is Carol Mackenzie, and as Executive Director of Education Resources, I've been given the honour of welcoming you all to Strathaven Academy and to the South Lanarkshire Council Holocaust Memorial Evening for 2024. To my right, I have the pleasure, I can't see them, but I have the pleasure of introducing your hosts for this evening, the Strathaven Academy School Captains. So Zoe and Scott, I don't know where you are, but you are our compeers for this evening. The community here in Strathaven are deeply honoured to have the privilege of hosting such an important annual event. Through the performances of our young people, we have the opportunity this evening to honour the 6 million Jewish people who lost their lives during the Holocaust and to show our respect for the suffering endured by their friends and family. The Holocaust marks a period of history which will forever impact upon the lives of the Jewish community, as the suffering they experienced can never be undone. This evening, we have the pleasure of welcoming many distinguished guests, including Mr. Timothy Lovett, President of Glasgow Jewish Representative Council, Ms. Teresa Matusiak, Vice Consulate General of the Republic of Poland in Edinburgh, Councillor Joe Fagan, Leader of South Lanarkshire Council, Mr. Paul Manning, Chief Executive of South Lanarkshire Council, Councillor Lindsay Hamilton, Chair of Education Resources Committee, Bishop Joseph Toll, Bishop of Motherwell Diocese, the Reverend Shaw Patterson, Ms. Geraldine Schenken, a Czech Jewish artist, Mr. Andy Flynn, Schools and Communities Development Coordinator for St Andrew's Hospice, Mr. David Borden-Smith of the Royal British Legion, Chief Inspector Gary Ferguson of Police Scotland, Area Commander for East Kilbride and Strathaven, as well as several of our elected members who have come along this evening. We also welcome Mr. Douglas Hutton from RM Education, who has once again kindly sponsored this evening's memorial event. It is also great to see that so many parents, elected members, head teachers and community representatives are in the audience this evening. So this evening we have representation from 9 of our secondary schools from right across South Lanarkshire Council, as well as a choir from the Strathaven Learning Community primary schools. They have worked extremely hard to produce an array of performances that will sensitively share their learning experiences drawn from the events of the Holocaust. I am sure all of us here this evening will find their performances of the pupils both moving and sensitive. So without further ado, I would now like to invite the leader of South Lanarkshire Council, Councillor Joe Fagan, to welcome you formally to tonight's proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Good evening. Welcome to Strathaven Academy. My name is Councillor Joe Fagan, and I am the leader of South Lanarkshire Council, and it is great to see so many people here tonight to mark this annual Holocaust Memorial event. This is a special time to reflect and remember the victims of the Holocaust. This event is a prominent feature in the annual calendar of South Lanarkshire Council. We strive to be an inclusive authority where we welcome and embrace all people. And the Holocaust was the systematic attempt to eliminate the Jewish people. On the Holocaust Memorial Day, we remember innocent Jewish men, women and children who lost their lives and those who survived but suffered unimaginable pain and loss in this dark chapter of European history. It helps us to understand what happened across Europe, and it should help us to reflect on how we strive towards a more peaceful world. In the education of our young people, we remain committed to ensuring that they understand the events of the past and have the opportunity to reflect on how they can contribute to creating a more caring and safe society. This evening we will hear from young people who will express their understanding and reflections through song, drama, and music. By remembering and honouring victims of these atrocities against the Jewish people, we can hope to build a future of dignity and equality for all, and allow those who suffered never to be forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms Mackenzie, and thank you, Councillor Fagan. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the South Lanarkshire Council Holocaust Memorial event. My name is Scott Fleming, and I'm one of the school captains, and this is Zoe Barber, my fellow school captain. Opening this evening's event, we heard the Holy Cross High School Concert Band, who performed the beautiful and sensitive piece, Risk Everything for a Dream, by Richard Saucedo. As you entered the school this evening, you'll have noticed exhibits generated by pupils from Strathaven Academy and artwork and poetry from Chapelton Primary School. Owen Clark, who is one of our talented seniors, has drawn a digital image titled Winter Camp. Our S1 pupils' Holocaust Memorial mural focuses on both the erosion and freedoms during the Holocaust and on some of the freedoms S1 enjoy today. Our S1 students' memorial flame is made up of their pledges not to take our freedoms for granted and their ideas for what we can do to strengthen freedoms around the world. Senior pupils at Chapelton Primary School have created poetry, posters and artwork based on the themes of peace, hope, freedom, equality and dreams for the future. They have each made a wish for their hopes and dreams for a better world, displayed on Chapelton's wishing tree. Chapelton Primary pupils have written poems which explore making a difference to our world through our actions and aspirations of unity and positive change. This evening, we are gathered to mark the annual Holocaust Memorial Day. Tonight provides us all with a time for quiet reflection and for the opportunity to hear the voices of children and young people from schools across South Lanarkshire on things that are important to them.
Freedom is something that many of us take for granted. We have the freedom to go to shops, we have the freedom to go to school, and we have the freedom to occasionally disagree with teachers and parents. We have the freedom to express the person we want to be without discrimination and to practice any religion of our choice. But not everyone has been so lucky to have the freedoms and liberties we have. History highlights many times in the past when doing the simple things discussed, like attending school or going to the shops, or being yourself freely and practicing your own religion, was something that was not allowed.
Life changed forever for European Jews when in 1933 the Nazis came to power in Germany. Anti-Jewish legislation was passed firstly in Germany, which denied Jews many freedoms and restricted their rights, starting with removing them from certain professions and schools and universities. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935 restricted Jews who could marry and went further than that. They defined anyone who had 3 or 4 Jewish grandparents as a Jew, regardless of whether or not that person saw themselves as Jewish. Thus, the Nuremberg Laws took away people's freedom of religion and freedom of self-identity. On the 9th of November 1938, Jewish shops and businesses in Nazi territories were attacked and destroyed. The night became known as the Night of the Broken Glass, and Jewish people were banned from cinemas, theatres and sports facilities.
As the German army swept through and started occupying European countries, Jewish people in those countries had many of their freedoms taken away. They were forced into ghettos, living in cramped conditions and often doing hard labour for the Nazis or for German industries. They were deported to concentration or death camps. Being imprisoned or enslaved is the very opposite of freedom, and this is simply because of their religion.
In her diary, Anne Frank could feel her freedom being eroded when the Nazis occupied Holland. As she said, that is when the horrible trouble started for the Jews. Our freedom was severely restricted by a series of anti-Jewish decrees. Sadly, the freedom to express religion is something that still not does come easy in some parts of the world.
On Holocaust Memorial Day 2024, we are all invited to reflect on how the freedom is fragile and vulnerable to abuse. As we gather tonight, let's pledge not to take our freedom for granted, but be grateful for the right to go to shops, to go to school, to go to work, be yourself and practice religion freely, and consider what we can all do to strengthen freedoms around the world. St. John O'Gleaves High School Guitar Ensemble provided a perfect backdrop to the recital of Primo Levi's If This Is a Man. This piece is a powerful reminder of what it means to be a human. But we first welcome Carluke High School pupils who will depict the 1960 memoir by Elise Wiesel, Night. Night is based on Wiesel's Holocaust experiences with his father in the Nazi German concentration camps at Auschwitz and Buchenwald in 1944 to 45, towards the end of the Second World War in Europe.
Lying down was not an option, nor could we all sit down. We decided to take turns sitting. There was little air. The lucky ones found themselves near a window. They could watch the blooming countryside flit by. After 2 days of travel, thirst became intolerable, as did the heat. There was still some food left, but we never ate enough to satisfy our hunger. Our principle was to economise, to save for tomorrow. Tomorrow could be worse yet. The train stopped in Kaschau, a small town on the Czechoslovakian border. We realised then we're not staying in Hungary. Our eyes opened. Too late. The door of the car slid aside. A German officer stepped in. From this moment on, you're under the authority of the German army. Anyone who still owns gold, silver, or watches must hand them over now. Anyone who will have been found to kept any of these will be shot on the spot. Secondly, anyone who is ill should report to the hospital car. That's all. The German officer went around with a basket and retrieved the last possessions from those who chose not to go on, tasting the bitterness of fear. There are 8 of you in the car, the German officer added. If any of you go missing, you will all be shot like dogs. The 2 disappeared. The doors clanked shut. We'd fallen into a trap up to our necks. The doors were nailed. The way back irrevocably cut off. The world had become a hermetically sealed cattle car. There was a woman among us, a certain Mrs. Schechter. She was in her 50s and with her 10-year-old son crouched in the corner. Her husband and 2 older sons had been deported with the first transport by mistake. The separation had totally shattered her. Mrs. Schechter had lost her mind. On the first day of the journey, she'd already begun to moan. She kept asking why she'd been separated from her family. Later, her sobs and screams became hysterical. On the 3rd night, as we were sleeping, some of us sitting huddled against each other, some of us standing, a piercing cry broke the silence.
Fire! I see a fire! I see a fire!
There was a moment of panic. Who had screamed? It was Mrs. Schechter, standing in the middle of the car in the faint light filtering through the windows. She looked like a withered tree in a field of wheat. She was howling, pointing through the window.
Look at this fire, this terrible fire! Have mercy on me.
Some pressed against the bars to see, but there was nothing, only the darkness of night.
live safe in your warm houses. You who find, returning in the evening, hot food and friendly faces. Consider if this is a man who works in the mud, who does not know peace, who fights for a scrap of bread, who dies because of a yes or a no. Consider if this is a woman, without hair and without name, with no more strength to remember, her eyes empty and her room cold, like a frog in winter. Meditate that this came about. I commend these words to you. Carve them in your hearts, at home, in the street, going to bed, rising. Repeat them to your children, or may your house fall apart. May illness impede you. May your children turn their faces from you.
Selected a jazz standard from a period where Europe and the world was in turmoil. Tonight they will perform the 1944 hit, Laura. St Andrews and St Bride's High School Drama Group will provide us with a thought-provoking and poignant performance through drama and song as they perform Sound of Freedom. For now, we invite S6 Larkhall Academy pupil Harry Gillespie to perform a stunning solo on the tenor saxophone. Please welcome Harry Gillespie to perform Spartacus' Love Theme.
The restrictions placed on us were severe, but I was still a child. I never realised how much her life, her freedoms had been affected. Until one night, Kristallnacht, 9th of November 1938. I remember getting down on my knees to pick up pieces of glass, and Mama yells at me, "Don't touch them!" Not because I might cut myself, but for some other reason, I don't understand. People stare at us and they point. Mama cries out loud when she sees how we're no yellow badge. What's wrong with you?
Don't you know you can never leave the house with your badge? The fire ate it and it ate our house.
When the men with torches came, when they smashed the glass and told us we're
not welcome here.
Some of them are people Mama used to know, from when Father cut their hair or shined their shoes. Men who used to admire our family and pay him for his work. Mama doesn't know what to say when I tell her that. All of us staring at the ruins of our home, all we own, charred and devoured over the long night. No one came to put the fire out, and no one would let us try. So we just stood with nothing left to watch the curl of smouldering smoke and the faint glow of red still alive in the ashes. And of course, the glass that looked like jewels.
Then came intern camps, so dreadful to recall. 101 place, forced to sleep on cement. We waited in line for a bit of bread, a bit of warm food. It was a terrible struggle for a terrible survival. Our hair shorn, brutally disfigured, we awaited our fate in a single silk shred. The march began. In a single procession, we could hardly drag our worn-out bodies in the awful heat. Famished all day, we were wallowed in dust.
Do I want to remember the peaceful ghettos before the raid? Children shaking like leaves in the wind, mothers searching for a piece of bread, shadows on swollen legs moving with fear. No, I don't want to remember, but how can I forget?
Do I want to remember the creation of hell? Shouts of the raiders enjoying the hunt, cries of the wounded begging for life, faces of mothers carved with pain, hiding children dripping with fear. No, I don't want to remember, but how can I forget?
Do I want to remember my fearful return? Families vanished in the midst of day, the mass grave steaming with the vapour of blood, mothers searching for their children in vain. The pain in the ghetto cuts like a knife. No, I don't want to remember, but how can I forget?
I want to remember the wailing of the night, the doors kicked ajar but feathers floating in the air, the night scented with snow, melting blood, while the compassionate moon leads the way for the faceless shadows searching for kin. No, I don't want to remember, but I cannot forget.
Do I want to remember this world upside down, where the departed are blessed with an infinite death and the living are forced to live a torturous existence in a short, wretched life? Living souls condemned to ashes and dust. No, I cannot forget, and I won't let you either.
Mama, I know that you are not with me, and yet I feel you here, your hands touching me. And as snowflakes are chased by the storm, so does my imagination fly away with you. Whatever will happen, I do not care anymore, because I believe that the dream will come true soon. Mama, our dreams must come true one of these days. And when that happens, we shall all go home and rebuild our tiny nest all over again, where nobody ever can harm us. And if they ask, are we happy? Is it good to live like this? We shall say yes, because we learnt to suffer and to persevere. Don't worry, Mother. It'll be all right. And don't worry, sister. Say your prayers and sleep tight. And it'll be fine.
Thank you to Harris, St Andrew and St Bride's Drama Group and the Strathaven Academy Jazz Band for those stunning performances. In this next section, we invite Calderglen High School pupils to perform a piece by the Scottish group Runrig. Runrig has fans across the globe, and this piece holds a significant place in their hearts. Their lyrics, along with a captivating melody, reflect the band's connection to their Gaelic roots and their deep love for the Scottish Highlands. Cathkin High School pupils have been working with their teacher, Miss Jewett, at the Glasgow Museum HMD project that has connected them with schools across Glasgow. South Lanarkshire Council Education Resources are proud to make their links with the Holocaust Memorial Trust and promote and support pupils in their learning. Sam, Ursula and Kyle tell us more about the work they have been doing. But first, please welcome Lesmahago High School pupils Sophie Ward to the stage as she performs War Song.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're from Cathkin High School in Cambuslang. I'm Kyle.
I'm Ursula.
And I'm Samuel.
We were invited to work with Glasgow Museums on a project with all the schools to mark Holocaust Memorial Day.
For the last 4 months, we have travelled into Glasgow to take part in workshops, to hear about people who have been affected by war, and meet people who have helped bring criminals to justice. Our group researched the life of Jane Henning to teach others about her life. Jane was born in Dumfries, worked in Budapest as a Christian missionary and was killed in Auschwitz for looking after Jewish children. Jane was given a certificate and a medal for her bravery. You can see these when you visit the Museum of Religious Life and Art in Glasgow.
There is a tradition in Christian art to honour heroes of the faith with a glyph. There is a small symbol that represents a story. You can see Jane's glyph here, a teardrop that represents the tears she shed as she stitched the yellow stars onto the clothes of Jewish girls. We presented Jane's story to the other pupils and made glyphs that told stories of our own or stories of someone that we loved. These looked really great against a window and were fun to make.
We visited the Garnet Hill Synagogue in Glasgow and learned about the life of Ernest Levy. Mr. Levy survived 7 concentration camps, including Auschwitz. He settled in Giffnock to raise a family and shared his story with hundreds of people.
At the Glasgow Museum Resource Centre, we learned all about Marianne Grant, a Jewish artist from Prague. Marianne survived 3 concentration camps and settled in Glasgow, where she raised her family. She literally did paint for her life, for Nazi soldiers, and her work is looked after by museums all around Glasgow. She literally did. Some of the artwork is rather upsetting, and you will notice that there is a scratch in this painting where the sun used to be. Marianne got angry one day and scratched the sun off because she felt in Auschwitz the sun never shone.
We then turned our thoughts to 1995 genocide in Bosnia and met Robert McNeil. Robert is also an artist from Glasgow, but didn't start painting until he was in his 60s. He painted to calm his mind and try and make sense of the horrors he saw in Bosnia.
Robert was a forensic technician for the UN. It was his job to identify the bodies of Muslims dumped in mass graves. This was so their bodies could be returned to their loved ones. The evidence that Robert gave to the UN helped to put Slobodan Milosevic in prison for crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide.
Robert was able to identify people from their clothes and what loved ones told them. He was inspired to paint this jumper, a piece of evidence he was later allowed to give back to the victim's widow.
Although a lot of these stories are sad and hard to hear, this project has been about meeting new people of our age, working as a team, and having a little fun. Here is a short video to show about what we've been doing about the project and to remember about how that everyone's freedom is very fragile.
Each year, the St Mungo Museum teams up with partner secondary schools to explore the Holocaust and genocide.
Since August last year, S2 pupils and teachers from Holyrood, St Andrews, St Roch and Cathkin High School have met at the museum to explore the importance of remembering lessons from the Holocaust for future generations. The theme of this year's event is the fragility of freedom.
We played games to get to know each other, including the shuttlecock game to learn other people's names.
We also did lots of arts and crafts to express how we feel about the stories we have learned.
We worked towards creating this final event, which we delivered to an audience of primary 7 pupils to mark Holocaust Memorial Day.
We do this to remember the lives of millions of innocent people who were killed during the Holocaust, including over 6 million Jews, the disabled and mentally ill, gay people, religious groups and ethnic groups such as the Roma people.
We also remember those who died in later genocides, including Cambodia, Rwanda and Bosnia. We explored some of the Scottish Holocaust victims and survivors, including Jane Haining, Marianne Grant and Ernest Levy.
Ernest Levy survived 7 concentration camps and eventually settled and raised a family in Glasgow.
In November, we visited Garnet Hill Synagogue where we learned about Jewish culture and traditions.
In this building there's lots of grand elaborate features. The kitchen is sort of split in half down the middle, with half of it being labelled in red and half of it being labelled in blue.
In December, we met Robert McNeil, an artist and former forensic technician. Robert was a part of the team of experts who gathered evidence for genocide in Srebrenica, a town where over 8,000 Muslim men and boys were killed during the Bosnian War in 1985.
Because of the nature of the work that I do, which was to establish how people had been killed, his body told us how he was killed.
We went to Glasgow Museum's Resource Centre and saw artworks made by survivor Marianne Grant in Theresienstadt, Bergen-Belsen and Auschwitz.
This shows us, it's called Sing Song on the Shabbat. It's a Friday night where the young people would have got together and would have had a sing song together.
Later we had a look around this huge museum store filled with objects from around the world. Everyone here worked hard to make this event happen.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Thanks. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. You're welcome.
Action.
I will now read a poem by Charles Whittaker called Auschwitz. The semi-quiver chugging off the train on the track, and the people on board who will never go back, and the terror in the eyes of all the young ones to go, with no knowing as the train comes to slow. Those men at the station were, as the ramps drop down, where humanity lost is the only crippled sound. Hope gone for those who stand behind the hard, sharp wire, and the smoke in the tower rises just a little higher, and the blue ink stabs a little harder in the skin, above the veins of despair where murder let it in, and the terror in the eyes of all those about to leave, another train on the track, no last-minute reprieve, and the slow crotchet chugging off the train on the track, and the people on board who will never go back.
We hope you found our presentation interesting, and thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Not respected. There's a division of us and them, which can be carried out using stereotypes or excluding those perceived to be different.
Symbolisation. This is a visual manifestation of hatred. Jews in Nazi Germany were forced to wear yellow bands to show that they were different.
Discrimination. The dominant group denies civil rights or citizenship to the identified groups. The 1935 Nuremberg laws stripped Jews of their German citizenship, made it impossible for them to do many jobs or to marry non-Jews.
Dehumanization. Those perceived as different were treated with no form of human rights or personal dignity. During the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, Tutsis were referred to as cockroaches. The Nazis referred to Jews as vermin.
Organisation. Regimes of hatred often train those who go on to carry out the destruction of a people.
Polarisation. Propaganda begins to be spread by hate groups. The Nazis used the newspaper Der Stürmer to spread and incite messages of hate about Jewish people.
Preparation. Perpetrators plan the genocide. They often use euphemisms such as the Nazi phrase, the final solution, to cloak their intentions. They built up armies and spread fear.
Persecution. Victims are identified because of their ethnicity and religion, and death lists are drawn up. People are often starved, and property is often expropriated. Genocidal massacres begin.
Extermination. Hate groups are formed to kill, to murder those in a deliberate and systematic campaign of violence. Millions of lives have been destroyed or changed beyond belief through genocide.
Denial. The perpetrators of the Holocaust or later generations deny the existence of any crime.
The whispers are always here. I hear their voices easing as I sweep, saying, careful, careful, don't knock the bones.
The guards with their black boots say, "Careful, or I might be next." If they hear the voices, they do not say. Yet they hear the bones rattle as the broom pushes them across the floor. The ovens are already dark, stained black with soot that never comes clear. Even though I scrub and scrub, I fear the dark when the spirits talk most. I can almost see their shadows, kneeling over like grotesque gargoyles, begging the guards for mercy none of us ever expect them to ever grant. I think often to my last birthday, before the soldiers came. My mother making a cake with 10 candles on it. War sure seems like years ago. And I feel so old. As old as my grandmother, but I will see no candles this year. And I'm afraid to count. The guards, for amusement, would sometimes make me count the bones, needing to make certain that all who walk in come out again. Bones piled high in barrels I push. I don't know which one's my mother's or my father's. Once I dreamed of killing them. My nights are filled with the revenge my days never see. I cannot dream. Or maybe the dreams I do dream are so filled with the voices I know no longer have the ability to speak. And I see their shadows, day, light, or night, of the people who have already turned to dust. Once I believed someone might save me before my voice turns to whispers and my body turns to dust. But now I sweep and scrub and count the bones, waiting for my time when someone else will sweep me up.
Your Honour, this statement is untrue.
I was there when Caduc brought hundreds of prisoners from the infirmary. They had to take off their clothes in the washroom and run past Caduc in a row. He held his cane before the prisoners about a yard above the ground and made them jump over it. Whoever touched the stick was sent to be gassed, and whoever over it made it, they were beaten until they collapsed. "Now jump again!" cried Caduc. But the second time the man could no longer make it.
I never separated prisoners. I never decided anything. I wasn't responsible for it.
If you're not responsible, then who is? You let propaganda rule your decision, and never once did you question what they fed you. You destroyed lives. You robbed us of our innocence, our children, our happiness, our freedom.
Closing our last act was the Strathaven Academy drama group. Thank you to the performers for that truly evocative performance of counting bones instead of candles. It is my pleasure to invite Mr. Lovett to the stage to light the ceremonial candle. But first, I would like to invite the Chair of the Education Resources Committee, Lindsay Hamilton, to the lectern to give the closing remarks.
Thanks everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and young people. It is a privilege to have attended tonight's event, and I commend those who have been involved in its planning, organisation and the compelling performances that we have all experienced. As Chair of Education Resources, I get to see and am encouraged by the ways our young people show tolerance and respect for others. They are also in many ways the future champions of justice and equality, and tonight's performance helped to showcase so very movingly how their voices matter and can help to influence change. On Holocaust Memorial Day, we remember the innocent Jewish men, women and children who lost their lives and those who survived, but suffering unimaginable pain and loss. Our young people this evening, 79 years on from the Holocaust, have expressed the impact on the Jewish people. Their message is a powerful one, and I am admire of them for their skills and talents they've so ably demonstrated this evening. The time to reflect, I am sure you have agreed, was very powerful. So I'd like to finish by thanking all of the pupils who have taken part in this evening. You're a credit to your school and to your family. And I'd like to express my thanks to Strathaven Academy for hosting this evening's memorial event and to all involved in the planning and organisation. And finally, I invite you to join me in thanking our two outstanding ambassadors, Zoe and Scott, who have guided us so professionally through this evening's performances. Thank you all for your attendance this evening, and I hope you have a safe journey home.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Timothy Lovett. I'm the president of the Glasgow Jewish Representative Council. Well, don't stop playing the music. I quite like that as my background music. It gives me a little bit of gravitas. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic of this evening aside just for a moment, I just want to say the quality of the acting and the singing and the musicians this evening was truly outstanding, and I just wish they were as good when I went to my children's school plays, because it really was fantastic. So congratulations to everybody who was involved with this evening. Thank you. I would also like to say that I find it very strange, being Jewish, watching these sorts of events. I see it through a different set of eyes than most people, and I grew up with the Holocaust. I've got family members who died in the Holocaust. I knew Reverend Levy, who you saw in the video, and I grew up with these people. I heard these stories firsthand. And on behalf of the Jewish communities of Scotland and all the Jewish people in Scotland, all I can say is to South Lanarkshire Council, to Strathaven Academy, to the captains, to everybody here this evening, to you and to all the pupils involved, thank you. Thank you very much from the Glasgow Jewish communities. Thank you.
Mr. Lovett, elected members, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now our pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this evening's Holocaust Memorial event. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Lovett, Stanley Bernstein, and all of our invited guests and dignitaries for giving up their time to be with us this evening. Our thanks goes out to Councillor Fagan, the leader of the South Lanarkshire Council, and Carol Mackenzie, Executive Director of Education Resources, for their opening address, as well as to Councillor Lindsay Hamilton, the Chair of the Education Committee, for her closing remarks.
Thank you also to Mr. Paul Manning, the Chief Executive of South Lanarkshire Council. Thanks to the Provost Councillor Margaret Cooper, as well as our invited guests and dignitaries for our various partnerships and agencies, and including representatives of the Council and Education Resources. It is also my pleasure to thank all of the head teachers and staff of this year's participating schools. And of course, a very special thank you must go to all of the young people for the outstanding performances and contributions. Their involvement has been truly inspirational. Thank you to all the parents and carers who have given the event such excellent support and to everyone who has helped in the planning and organising of this evening's event.
Particular thanks go to the staff from Strathaven Academy, Mr. Herbertson for coordinating the music and the performances, Miss Betty for the drama performance, Mr. Simpson for the wonderful exhibits on display this evening, social subject staff for the learning and teaching that has taken place during the school session around the Holocaust, school office and PTA for organising the hospitality, Mr. Dobb and Mr. Osborne from Hamilton Grammar and Les Mexico High, respectively, for assisting us with the audio and visual and lighting setup. All the schools have contributed so much to making tonight's event possible. Thank you all very much.
As proud hosts of this year's Holocaust Memorial event, Strathaven Academy staff and pupils could think of no better way than sharing the experience with the whole learning community, than bringing pupils together to express themselves in song. Children from West Roverton, Kirkland Park, Sanford, Chapelton, Glassford, Gilmerton and St Patrick Primary Schools have been working with Mrs Hollinger for the last few months to learn a very beautiful new song. Today they rehearse the song for the very first time, and they are delighted to close this evening's very special event with their performance of I Believe. You will hear the pupils sing, I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. We hope these words inspire you to believe in a brighter future and leave you full of hope. As we leave tonight, let's pledge not to take our freedoms for granted. Be grateful for the right to go to the shops, to go to school, go to work, be yourself, and practice religion freely, and consider what we can all do to strengthen freedoms around the world. Finally, may we thank you for being such a wonderful audience. May we wish you a safe journey home. Ladies and gentlemen, invited guests, I give you Strathaven Learning Community Primary Choir to close tonight's proceedings.
I believe in the sun.